Hello, welcome. Boy, I'm just a little bit tossed. Let's see who's here. This is a new app for us, this program. Um, so I'm just hoping that lots and lots of people are on here, and it's weird I don't see how that works. But we'll just assume it is working. My name's Barak Rosenbloom. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm the founder and owner of EssayQuest. I have been working exclusively with college essays for many, many years, since 2012, mentoring high school kids. And what really drives me is young adults discovering and exploring who they are, designing their lives, living their lives powerfully and freely, and also becoming better writers and communicators. So a little bit different as they write their great college essays. And I am so excited once again to have Tamy-Feé Meneide join me. She led an Unreal webinar about 3 months ago on a similar title, How to Help Your Teen Get Shit Done. And after that, I stopped procrastinating and started packing for moving. It was unbelievable. So thank you. I'm excited to hear what you'll be sharing. Tamy-Feé, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Hi and welcome, everyone. So excited that you are here with us. Uh, I guess I can jump right in if that works for you, Brock.
Yep.
All right,
Yep.
let me just make sure everything is working on the tech side.
Yep. Everything's working. Here we go.
Okay, great. So, again, hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Tamy-Feé Meneide. I'm the founder of Ikigai Consulting, and I'm really excited for this conversation today because it's one of the biggest challenges that I come across with every family that I work with, no matter how high achieving the student might be. And so today's about something very real, right? So, how to help your teen, your tiny human, actually follow through without constant conflict, without the burnout, without you feeling like the homework police, if you will. Uh, because the truth of the matter is, most parents are working incredibly hard and the system is still not working the way it should, right? So, what I would like to do today is not just talk to you about some advice. I want to really talk about the system. And one way to understand the system is first to understand what's actually happening, because once you know better, you hopefully do better. And so we'll talk through what to do differently. And by the end of the session, you're going to walk away with hopefully a completely different lens on your teen's behavior. You will get some concrete language that you can use immediately, and hopefully a simple model that you can apply at home this evening. So let's start with something simple. Is this session for you? I want you to use the chat function if you can and just think about which one of these things feels most familiar this week. The procrastinating, the shutting down, anxiety sort of running the house. Just go ahead and share. I know for me, it's anxiety running the house right now. And so, one of the things that I want to help you understand right away is that each of these behaviors has a different root cause, right? But they all look the same on the surface. So, what most parents do is respond to the behavior, but the behavior is actually not the problem. It's signaling that there is a problem. And if we don't understand what's underneath it, we end up applying the wrong solution and actually making it worse, right? So, why does your teen feel out of control? I could say, why do I sometimes feel out of control? Right. So the emotional brain is fully online. That's our amygdala, right? The amygdala is responsible for processing emotions, especially fear and threats. It reacts quickly to keep us safe, right? And the thinking brain, the prefrontal cortex, we're here, that processes all of our thinking. It's responsible for decision making, for planning, for focus, for impulse control, right? And so the thinking brain is still under construction right now, up until about mid 20s, right? And so your teen's emotional brain, the amygdala, is fast, it's reactive, it's constantly scanning for threat. And their thinking brain, the prefrontal cortex, is responsible for the planning, the decision making, and impulse control. But here's the problem: the thinking brain is still developing. So when stress hits, Emotions win, not because your child is trying to be difficult, but because their brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. So then let's layer in the reality of an average teenager's environment right now. The pressure is so real. And again, it's not your child being difficult, it's about the environment exceeding their capacity. So today's teens, they're managing the academic pressure, they're managing social comparison, identity development, future anxiety, all at once, right? And so let me say this clearly, this is not a motivational problem, it's a systems problem. So let's get into the science behind this a little bit. Let's go a little nerdy, if you will. So here, what you'll see is there's a lot to take in on this slide. And we're going to talk through this slide pretty deeply. So let's start with the polyvagal theory. The polyvagal theory basically says everything that we know about the central nervous system, about fight or flight and rest or digest, actually has a third system called the social engagement system, which regulates our ventral vagal complex. And that is the state that supports when we're calm, when we're able to communicate, and when we feel connected. So I want to actually show you what's actually happening to your child's body when they're overwhelmed, and maybe even your body, right? So, because once you understand this, their behaviors will make a lot more sense. So, there are three main states to your child's nervous system, and your child's nervous system can move through these three states. The first state is our ventral vagal state. This is where we feel safe. This is where we feel connected. This is where we want our kids to be most of the time. They're calm. They can think clearly. They can communicate. They can problem solve. Something that's really important to note here, this is the only state where learning and growth actually happen. The next state, the sympathetic state, is fight or flight, right? And so this is what happens when your child feels pressure or threat. Anxiety spikes, they get reactive or defensive, they might argue, they might panic, or they might try to escape. This is not defiance. This is a stress response. And it's exactly what the brain and the central nervous system are meant to do. And then finally, the third state, the dorsal vagal. This is the shutdown state. This is the state where my parents will say they are most scared. This is when the teens go quiet, when they avoid everything, when they seem unmotivated or numb. Let me be very clear. This is not laziness. This is a sign of tremendous stress and feeling overwhelmed. I know I just went through a lot here, but let me just recap. But go ahead, Barack.
Yeah, I was going to ask if I can you stop sharing for a moment. This is like bringing up so much stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Wait, oh, here we go. Here we go. We have, like I said, I'm still learning how to use this thing.
No worries.
There
No
we go.
worries.
Now we're next to each other. Good, good, good.
Good to see
So,
you.
oh my God, you got so much running through. I've got so much running through my head.
It's okay. Let's unpack
About
it. Yeah.
10 minutes ago, when I was setting up and we were practicing, and I was starting to get freaked out and stressed out because the mic wasn't working, and then her mic, like nothing was right. And then my 6-month-old puppy got tangled up in the USB cable to the light, and it came crashing down. And he was,
No.
and like we've been in puppy school, which is really about teaching me how to teach a puppy. It's not for him. I'm watching how he learns, how he reacts to the world. It's exactly what you're describing. There's something so fundamental. As a ski, I was a ski instructor for many, many years. I trained instructors, and that, like, yeah, when you just kind of calmly, students are calmly skiing, they got it handled, and then you go up a level.
Yeah,
And that's we call it the yikes zone. It's like, oh, what's going, and you revert, then you got to
yeah,
go down to teach something else.
yeah.
The puppy school, it's like, okay, if he's not sitting and shaking for a treat, just let him sit and give him the treat. So I'm just so struck by how universal it is. And when it comes to college essays, when it comes to college applications, when it comes to all of that, what you just said helps me understand so much behavior and dynamics that I've been seeing for 15 years.
Yeah, yeah. It's wonderful that there's a science behind all this and
Yeah.
we actually have tools to help us navigate it, right? And so here we go. Thank you, Barak. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Let me go back to sharing. Right. Back to our very dense slide here. Okay. So these states that we just went through, right? The three states, ventral vagal, sympathetic, and dorsal vagal systems, right? These are not random states. They follow a predictable order. So we always want to start in safe and connected. If stress then increases, we move to fight or flight. If it becomes way too much, we drop down into the shutdown, right? So the brain is not trying to sabotage you or your child. It's actually trying to protect them. It's doing the very thing that it was set out to do. So before you try to fix the behavior, what I want you to start doing is ask, what state is my child in right now? Or what state am I in right now? Right? So when we think about what Barak and I see when we're working with families and students, they stay in this loop that you see at the bottom of the slide. And this loop is first, they get too much too fast, too unclear. Then their body goes into stress mode because they're full of anxiety. Then they,
Uh-oh, Tammy-Faye, I just found out there is a waiting room. How do I, oh no, how do I, oh, uh-oh, need to let people in. What is going on? Media people, recording info, mute. How do I let people in from the waiting room? Invite via email. This is really awful. There's like 15 people in the waiting room, and I don't know where the waiting room is.
okay. At the top of your screen, do you see
I see it says 13 Riverside, 13 Riverside. This is really, and we'll
mistakes are
send
how
it
you
to you.
learn? I love it. I love it. We're learning in
I
real
see,
time and we're
I see
practicing in real
absolutely
time.
no evidence of or no, nothing hosting. I am so bewildered. Okay, Tammy Faye, I apologize. You just keep going. I apologize to
Oh,
everyone.
it's okay.
Just keep on going.
Okay. All right. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen again to that dense slide. Go. Okay. So I'm not sure where we left off at, but I will review again the pathways, the three states that your child's nervous system can move through, right? So we start off in the ventral vagal state, and that's where we feel safe and connected. The second, if we experience any stress or threat or pressure, we go into the sympathetic uh, uh, fight or flight mode. And then we go, if the threat continues and it escalates, we go into shutdown, the dorsal vagal, right? And so we know that these states aren't random, that they follow a predictable order, and that the brain is not trying to sabotage you or your child. It's actually trying to protect them, right? And so before you try to fix the behavior, what I want each and every one of us to ask is, what state is my child in right now? Okay. And so when we look at the bottom of the slide, this is the loop that most families are kind of stuck in. Their child gets overwhelmed, too much, too fast, nothing's clear. Then they go into anxiety. Their body goes into a stress mode, right? And then they avoid. They don't want to start. They shut down. They procrastinate, right? And then we come in as parents with reminders, with lectures, with consequences. And that increases their feeling of overwhelm. And so the cycle repeats and gets stronger each time. So more pressure does not break the cycle, it reinforces it. I feel like I should say that again. More pressure does not break the cycle, it reinforces it. And so when we look at why does this happen? because pressure targets behavior, but the problem is happening in the nervous system, right? So instead of pushing harder, we want to shift the approach. And the last part of the slide on the bottom right hand side, you'll see some strategies. The first is we want to build safety and connection. Calm first. Lower your tone, slow the conversation, make it feel safe to engage again. That's one strategy. Then you want to think about, okay, we want to reduce the demands and increase clarity. So sometimes that means using one of our executive functioning strategies, making the tasks smaller and clearer, breaking things down. So instead of saying, do your homework, we want to say, why don't we open this document together? Right? Then there's a fine line of balancing between controlling and coaching, right? So we want to move from telling into guiding. We want to ask questions. We want to invite ownership. And then finally, and I think this is the most important step, is that we want to focus on the small wins because momentum builds motivation. One step and then another. And that recognition for those small wins actually ignites the motivation in our children. So if your child feels safe, they can engage. If they can engage, they can act. And if they can act, they can build their confidence. So this is not about lowering expectations. It's about creating the conditions where your child can actually meet them. So really quickly, share in the chat, where does your human get stuck in this loop between the overwhelming anxiety, the avoidance, the more pressure? Where do you all get stuck?
And I'm not entirely convinced that there isn't a 10-minute delay on this.
Wow, we are learning a lot
We are
in
learning a
real
lot.
time.
And Tammy-Feé, oh, we just got stuck in the avoidance. Okay. Oh, and there's Busy. Hi, Busy.
Yep, task
We're
initiation.
live.
Yes. For me, it's task initiation. That is the scariest part. That is the scariest part. So thank you for sharing, everyone. When we think about what's actually breaking, two things are breaking: the nervous system and the executive functioning skills, right? So, just a little bit of a reminder and refresher from our last webinar. Executive functioning is a core concept to explaining our mental processes that regulate our thoughts, our emotions, and our behaviors to achieve a goal directed action. So, executive functioning underpins planning, problem solving, self control, flexible adaptation. Um, and executive functioning is essential to learning, decision making, and everyday functioning. So, the planning part: what do I need to do? Task initiation: how do I start? Sustained attention: how do I keep going? When these fail, you will see avoidance.
And just very quickly, we will send out, it'll be tonight or tomorrow, links to the previous webinar to fill in all these. And everyone, if you haven't seen it, you need to watch that also.
Thanks.
For people wondering.
Right, exactly. So here's the key thing that I want you to walk away with: you cannot reason with a dysregulated brain. That's it. That's the headline. And so, looking at all of the things that executive functioning holds, you if one thing is off, if you're under any type of stress, all of these things are impacted. Your ability to be flexible, your memory, your planning, your emotional regulation, your focus, all of those things go out the window, right? And so when we think about why this pressure backfires, the nervous system explains it, right? And so when your teen is stressed, thinking shuts down. And remember, you cannot logic your way out of a nervous system problem. So now we have the two breakdowns: the nervous system and executive functioning. So when stress hits, thinking goes offline. You cannot reason with a dysregulated brain. And we know that as you pile on more stress, our cognitive load will feel too big and unclear. And so the brain does what the brain was set out to do, which is avoid it. right? And so clarity reduces anxiety, ambiguity creates avoidance. So
Can
when
you
we
can you
think,
say that again?
sure, I'll go back.
I want to like really
Yeah. So
ponder that.
clarity reduces anxiety, ambiguity creates avoidance. So when something feels too big or unclear, the brain does what it's supposed to do and avoids it.
Can you? I would love. I want to take a little. Is this a good time to take a little pause?
Sure, sure.
Okay, good. Yeah, if you can stop sharing and
Yeah,
then
right.
hit the other thing. Now, if people have, if anyone has questions or thoughts or observations, just put them in the chat. But also, like, what are the things you're like? If you're noticing these things, if as Tammy-Feé, like, I'm going right to my puppy.
I love it.
I'm thinking of my students, as when I was a ski instructor, I'm thinking of the kids I work with
Yeah.
on their college essays. It's like
Yeah.
everything, and having my fiance's kids.
Yeah.
Um, like if people have questions or what they're putting down, but that's like brilliant. The clarity creates. Say it again. Just love what you said.
I love it. I love that you love what I said. So clarity reduces anxiety. When you are clear, when the instructions are accessible to you, you are in a path of, okay, I know what I'm supposed to do, right?
Hmm.
So that reduces some of that cognitive load, that anxiety. And ambiguity creates that environment for avoidance to occur.
And what it strikes me that what's so obvious to me, like, okay, when I say shake, just put your paw up and go like that, and I'll give you a treat.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very clear to me. It is not clear to Otis.
I love it.
And the one of the I can't believe I'm in this webinar talking about like puppy training, but it's so dead on. The We're using this little clicker. So as soon as the instant he demonstrates something that a behavior we want, give it a little click and a treat. And over time, and sometimes like, wait, what did you click? And you have to click the instant. Yeah,
Got it.
that's the behavior. And if the behavior for a teenager is Molly put remembering to submit assignments, just
Yeah.
saying, okay, you got to turn in your homework, clear to us, not clear to them.
Right. So think about when assignments are collected, usually first thing in the morning, right when a student comes in. Now, one of the things that when I worked in a charter school, one of the things that we really focused on is, did you eat breakfast? Good morning. How was your commute in? Let's take a deep breath together, because the chaos of just getting to your destination could create that level of anxiety, that cognitive load, that then I did my homework last night. I forgot to turn it in because whatever happened morning getting to school created that ambiguity.
I've had many parents tell me that, at the end of the semester, they find a backpack
Mhm.
with sort of like layers of homework assignments squashed underneath everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. We've all been there. We've all
Okay,
been.
great. But that sense of like the clarity is clarity for the person, not for the adult who knows how to turn in our assignments.
Yep. Yep.
There's a huge distinction.
So what we'll move into next is what I like to call support without hovering. Okay? So let me go back to sharing. Here we go. Right. So when we think about support without hovering, I lean on the self-determination theory, right? And so one of the things, three things that a teenager needs in order to function well. Number 1, autonomy. I have a say. Number 2, competence. I can do this. And number 3, connection. I'm supported. Most parents will respond with control. Me too. But what control does, it reduces autonomy, which then reduces motivation. So we want to shift from control to collaboration, right? And so when you overmanage, you accidentally remove autonomy and the motivation drops. So let me walk you through a couple of scenarios that I'm sure sound like things that we've all been through or experienced. Let's start off with a homework or procrastination example. What hovering looks like there is, did you start your homework? You need to get this done now. Why are you always putting things off? Now, if we shift it and say, how would I support without hovering? Okay. Something that we can say is, you know what? I know this feels like a lot. Do you want help figuring out how to start? Or do you want to take a first pass on it on your own? Why this magical sentence works is because autonomy and competence. Autonomy, you're giving a choice. Competence, you're offering support, but not saying that they don't know how to do it, right? Another example, the missed deadlines. We get this a lot, especially with essays, right? And so the hovering might look like, this is exactly what I warned you about, or I told you so, or you should have listened to me. What we want to shift to is support without hovering. So now what I want want you to do is say, that really didn't go how you wanted. What do you think got in the way? Give them the space to answer, build some problem solving, avoiding shame. And then you also follow up with the metacognition question, which is, what's one thing you try to do differently next time? So, again, why this works? We're building problem solving and we're avoiding shame, which preserves motivation. Once someone is shamed, they don't feel like doing the thing anymore, right? They don't feel like being an agent of change to try something new the next time or differently the next time. So, support without hovering really centers our teens' central nervous system and executive functioning. Let me give you one more example. Um, let's talk about when a teen shuts down. So, when they shut down, right, they're in that last state, that dorsal vagal state. Hovering might look like, talk to me. I really need to know what's going on with you. Or, why are you being like this? Right? Support without hovering, what that looks like is, I can tell that this is a lot right now. We don't need to figure it out this second. I'm here when you're ready. So you're creating connection and safety. Why does this work? You're reducing the pressure and you're keeping your relationship intact, right? And so this is how we go from shift of control to collaboration. We're giving them those three things that the teens need, right? And just to review, autonomy, I have a say, competence, I can do this, and connection, I'm supported. Support without hovering means that you're staying close enough to guide, but far enough to let them grow. Some important nuances that sometimes people think I'm saying, I want to be very clear. This approach does not mean that you have no expectations. It does not mean that you're being passive. What it does mean is that you're being intentional about when you step in and how. Let's continue and give you guys some calmer conversations and better results. Let's do
Actually,
this.
before we do that, can I add just a couple quick things? I know there are some people on here who work with kids and work with families. They're college consultants or essay people or educators. This goes for parents too.
Yeah,
Like it's,
we're going to
I
talk
mean,
about
I have parent. Oh, okay. So we're going to talk about how educators can help calm
co-regulation.
parents. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay,
A
back
lot
to
of this stuff, y'all, is applicable to me right now, and with my big old brain that has a very developed prefrontal cortex, right? But I still need work at it because you have to practice this. It's not innate, right? And so our brain and our central nervous system are meant to work together in any perceived threat, right? And so there is a automatic response. And part of us being these creatures of habit is that we need to build the muscle to say, okay, what state is my child actually in right now before I react, right?
Great. I'll go away again.
You're always welcome,
Oh,
Barack.
I know. I just wanted to say, like, again, I just think of so many parents I've dealt with where it's the
Yeah,
kid is okay, they're hovering because they're panicking. The parents are panicking. This essay is a disaster. It'll never be finished. It's like,
yeah, yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
I got it. Can we talk? And then 2 days later, they're like, how is it done? I don't understand. Like,
More
well,
panicking.
I've
We
been
both
around this a lot longer, more than you.
exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
great, thanks.
I love it. So, calmer conversations, better results. So, these are some sentences that you can try. And so, one of the reasons why these scripts work is because they reduce defensiveness and they increase ownership. People innately resist control, but they respond to collaboration. So, instead of, why haven't you started? Try, what's one small step that we can take together tonight? So, really quickly, because I really believe in us trying what we are preaching here, I want to do a quick exercise with you all. I want you to take 10 seconds and rewrite one thing that you say at home. And if you want to, please share in the chat.
Okay, my thing. I'll give
Love it.
people a few more seconds, but I've got a thing, and I don't know the
You got a
rewrite.
thing. Let's go.
So Amy, my fiance, will just sort of like jump in and just do stuff,
Yeah.
and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Can we look at the instructions? Can we get a little information? That is, it was sort of what I say. It's like cut it out, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Some version of cut it out, slow down. Can we please just like
Yeah.
breathe and do this, whatever it is? And in just like clearly, there's an expectation of you're not competent, like or an undertone of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
If she does something, says similar things to me, and I respond and have a blow up, and then we get over things quickly. But like I have absolutely no idea what I would say because usually I'm in the middle of like "Urgh,"
Yeah.
at the same
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing.
And I deal with it with kids too. They're like, "I
Oh,
just did this thing." I was like, "Oh my God, why did you just like would you slow down?" It's the will you slow down? That's the thing I'm trying to get people to do.
yeah. 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 So basically, in that quick exercise, what you essentially are doing is observing, validating, and collaborating. So by rewriting, why haven't you started yet? You want to first observe, then you want to validate your teen or partner or human, right? And then you want to invite for collaboration, right? And so when you change why haven't you started to what's one thing or one step you could take tonight, you're inviting that observation that A, they haven't started, B, that they might have some task initiation freezing going on, right? And so you're validating that. And then you're giving and offering an idea that they can collaborate on. So, again, when you're thinking about these scripts, they work because they reduce defensiveness and increase ownership. Okay. And so when we think about the calmer version of when your teen has shut down and are in an escalated version of yourself and you say, you really need to talk to me. This is ridiculous, right? We've all said some version of that. The calmer version is saying, I can tell something feels off right now. We don't have to figure this out this second. I'm here whenever you're ready, right? So the reducing the pressure, the nervous system settles. You're keeping your relationship open and it increases that likelihood of later engagement, right?
I could maybe rather than saying like slow down, can we figure this out? Can we do it right? like oh, right now I'm feeling a little rushed, and I know that you have some clarity about what we should do. Can we take a second and sort of process? I need a moment to process this.
I need a moment to process, practicing the pause.
I need a little time to process. Okay, that makes sense. And that invite, validate, and
Yeah,
collaborate makes a lot of sense. And then, well, thank you, because I was like, how in the world am I ever going to do that?
yeah,
Latanya, can you please get off your phone and start your homework?
yeah.
Sure, no one has ever said that on this
No,
call.
no,
Replace
right?
with let's take 5 more minutes to relax and then let's chat about what you're thinking about starting with. Great. Like, okay, you do your thing. And then Otis, we can play Tuggy for 2 more minutes and then we're going to lie down by the fire.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
Okay.
And a lot of this, it doesn't need to be a lot of a lot of times parents feel that they are invalidating themselves in order to validate their child. And what I will say to that is it's a both and. You don't need to shut off what you're feeling. For example, have we ever been in the space where we're saying, I'm not going to remind you again? You need to dot, 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 right? Here's a different way of saying it that honors that frustration you're feeling as a parent, but also is the calmer version for your child. You can say something to the effect of, I don't want to keep reminding you. It's frustrating for both of us. What systems would help you keep track of this on your own? And lastly, do you want to set something up together? So again, that honest feeling where you're validating what is the feeling that is happening, then you're giving that ownership and then you're inviting collaboration. So it names the dynamic without blame and then it shifts the responsibility to the child, to the teen, right? And so that's just another example that I hope is helpful to this. And someone had put in the chat, what about the I don't care response, right? How many times have we heard, I don't care? The escalated version of yourself might say, yes, you do. Stop being lazy, right? But the calmer version might say something like, when you say I don't care, it makes me think something about this feels frustrating or pointless. What's the part that's hardest to care about right now? Okay. So, interpreting that underlying feeling, is it frustration? Do they just think it's not going to get them to the next thing? And then curiosity. What's the part that's hardest to care about right now? So, it helps translate that resistance into meaning and it keeps the teen engaged instead of defensiveness. So, this is the simple formula, right? It's a 3-step conversation shift. 1, you observe, no judgment. I'm noticing dot, dot, dot. Number 2, you validate and reflect. It seems like dot, 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 or that sounds dot, dot, dot. And then finally, the 3rd step, inviting collaboration. What do you think would help? Do you want to figure it out together? Those are the 3 steps to help shift the conversation from control to collaboration. Calmer conversations work because they make your child feel safe enough to think. And thinking is what leads to action. So when they're in that state where they feel connected and safe, that is when their prefrontal cortex and their amygdala work together. And that thinking leads to action.
I love that. Can you stop sharing for a moment since it's
Yeah,
this clear
absolutely.
breaking point. Oh my God, so I love that. Observe with no judgment. People might be laughing at like how excited I get about this and how much overlap and how like this is like really it's like human beings right here.
Yeah,
I've
100%.
for many years, and I worked with some neuroscientists, and like kind of like trying to understand fundamentally how people learn most naturally. And I boiled it down to notice, get curious, play. I notice that you seem freaked out, or on Tuesdays you never get your homework, like whatever. That's just it's just like an observation. There's nothing more.
Yep, Exactly.
And we're noticing things all day long, and we notice so much we can't process it all. But some things you get curious about, like, oh, is it that for this reason, or is this what's going on? Is it that's very much that validate and reflect, pure curiosity.
Yeah.
And then play is when you do something different. You change the language, you play around with trying to figure out how to get my microphone working. It's like, I know this is not working. I wonder why. I don't know. Let me try this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that play is that inviting collaboration. You've now changed the environment, you've changed the dynamics. And when I was sort of coming up with this, talking with some great PhD neuroscientists, one of them was very annoyed because he said, "Really, we've been trying to figure out how to describe this for years, and you did it in 4 words." Um, but it really, and then it's repetition, repetition, repetition,
Yes.
um, practice. And so I'm just like astonished, and I love like how neatly this fits in with fundamentally how the brain learns and grows and changes.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Okay.
Again, observe, validate and reflect, and invite collaboration. That is how you shift the conversation from control to collaboration. More conversations. Here we go. So, again, a lot of parents do think that high expectations means pressure. I would agree with that, but I would add one more thing, right? The reality is high expectations plus safety equals performance. So you don't need to lower the bar. You need to change how the bar is experienced. So let me try to make this real with a quick example. So imagine your teen gets a low grade on a test. A high pressure response sounds like, "This is absolutely unacceptable. You need to study harder. You're capable of more." Now, those three statements that I just made, there's high expectation in that, but it's experienced as pressure. So what happens? The brain hears, "I'm failing, I'm disappointing you, I'm not enough." And that triggers stress, which then makes it really, really hard for them to approve, right? So when you think about that high pressure example, and you communicated, "You can do this. You need to study harder. This is not acceptable." You're holding the boundary. You feel like you're doing the right thing as a parent. But what the brain is actually hearing are all that negative self talk. "I'm not enough. I'm disappointing you," right? And now, if we were to shift using calmer conversations, right? Those three steps, same situation with high expectations and safety. Here's what I would reframe that as: I know this isn't the results you wanted. And I also know you're capable of doing better than this. Let's figure out what didn't work here so that we can adjust your approach next time. So notice that we didn't change our expectation. We're still saying, "I believe you can do better." But what changed is how your teen experiences your language. They will feel seen instead of judged. They will feel supported instead of criticized. They will feel capable instead of defeated. And that shift matters so much because when the brain feels safe, it can think. And when it can think, it can improve. So it's not the expectation that matters, right? It's whether your child feels safe enough to rise to it. All right, let's continue. This is something that all of my parents ask me about, and that is, I want to stop being the homework police. I get it. Kids do well if they can. If they're not, something is getting in the way. So it could be a lagging skill. It could be an unclear expectation. It could also mean emotional overload, right? So let's say homework is taking forever. There's so many distractions, right? You as a parent might say to your teen, "Focus, put your phone away." The teen claps back and says, "I am focusing," right? But what we want to think about is the collaborative problem solving. So observe. I've noticed homework is taking a long time lately. What's getting in the way of focusing? Hopefully, your teen's response might be, I get distracted, it's boring, I don't understand it, or my phone, right? Hopefully, this shifts them into problem solving because now they are taking ownership for why homework might be taking a long time. Then let's define the problem. After they identify, oh, it's boring to me, or my phone is a distraction, then you come in and say, got it. From my side, I know that you need to get homework done in a reasonable amount of time. What would help you focus better without me hovering? And so now your teen is invited in the collaboration of what would work. Would setting an Alexa timer work? Would building in breaks? Would putting the phone in another room? Right? You might say something as a parent, let's try 25 minutes on and 5 minutes off and see if that works. Why this would work? The teen owns the distraction. The solution is co created. And you, as a parent, you're not policing the behavior. So, this collaborative problem solving model is trying to meet them where they are at using the calmer conversations, right? The observe, the validate and reflect, and then invite for a collaboration. Another example that my parents come to me with is the late night panic, where the teen has something due the next day and it is almost midnight. And usually, what happens is the parent says to the student, you should have started earlier, or I told you so. But if we're inviting in that model of calmer conversations, what we want to first start off with is that validation of observation. This feels stressful right now. I think we should try to realistically figure out what can get done tonight. What do you think is the most important thing to focus on first? And then tomorrow, let's figure out how to prevent this in the future. So, the reason why this works is we're regulating first, we're prioritizing instead of shaming, and we're building future planning, that metacognition skill. Let's figure out how to prevent this in the future, right? So, the Ross Green collaborative problem solving model basically says let's lead with empathy, let's define, and then let's collaborate. So, what's making this hard? I know homework needs to get done in this amount of time, or we need to be in bed by this time. And then collaborate. What's a plan that works for both of us? Right? So structure beats the nagging because kids follow plans that they help create. Again, structure beats nagging because kids follow the plans that they help create. An important nuance to this is I'm not asking you to remove expectations. I'm not asking you to give in. But what I am asking is how are we solving the real problem instead of reacting to the behavior?
I want to jump in for a second. I'm thinking of the ways I started working with teens years ago with college essays and how I work with them now. And very early on, I said, okay, and it still is, this is your project, it's your journey, it's your adventure. This, like, I am here to support you, to help you, to be your mentor and guide for you to learn and write the best essay you possibly can.
Right.
And I'm never going to get, and originally it was like, I'm not going to give you homework or assignments. I just want you to be managing this yourself as a perfectly capable young adult, not realizing the extent to which perfectly capable young adult does not apply to 17-year-olds writing college essays necessarily. And I know that there are other consultants who are just have a different approach, and they're like, this is the structure, this is the deadlines, this is, you're going to do this, then this, then this, then this, and they're very effective at helping kids move through. What I've done is I'll say, after the first meeting, I'll say, okay, when do you want your main essay to be finished? And they may say, well, October 20th, because November 1st is the deadline. It's like, you could do that, but what if it were like before school starts in September? Like,
Yes.
that's what a lot of people do. And then we'll pull up a calendar and we'll put a date on top of the document that has what they're going to do each week. And it's this
Yeah.
main essay done by August 17th. And I reiterate, this is your goal. This
Yeah.
is and my job is now to help manage and keep track of, are you on track for that? And I'm going to let your parents know so everyone's on the same page. So it reduces parent anxiety. It gives me opportunities to say, hey, Tamy-Feé is, she just got to this milestone. She's doing great. I'll let you know when she hits the next one. Have a nice
Yeah.
day. Like in it. So like everyone's on that same page. There's that clarity, and then adjust if needed, or it's like, gee, it seemed to be slipping. What's going on? How can we? But that it really changed everything when I started realizing that I can guide them in helping make those dates and deadlines, and then support them in getting there.
Yeah. I love it.
Um, and yeah, they're not going to do it on their. I never had any kid when I was doing it the old way. Yeah, that didn't last too long before I was like, I could do something different.
100%.
They
100%.
also finish way earlier than they ever did. Like the more I approach things this in this general way and find more opportunities to, like last year I was kind of blown away by how much earlier my students finished compared to any previous year.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. And so a lot of it is about how you approach it, right? And so as parents, we have 1,000 things being thrown at us at any given moment of the day, right? And so in order to practice calmer conversations and collaborative problem solving, you have to be able to regulate yourself first, right? And it's kind of like, the airplane, right? You put your oxygen mask on first before you help others. This is backed by science, right? And so the most powerful thing that we can do for a dysregulated teen is calming our body down first. By practicing our own grounding techniques as parents, we are A, modeling the behavior that we'd like for them to do, but B, actually setting us up for success in upholding these calmer conversations, right? And so, quick regulation tools that help me and I always use with parents is practicing the pause. I need a moment is a complete and powerful sentence. Just like movement breaks work for kids, they work for adults alike. A quick 5-minute walk or going outside and, as the kids say, touch grass really allows for you to calm before a tense conversation. And then my favorite, box breathing, the 4 counts. 4 counts in, holding for 4 counts, out for 4 counts, hold again. And just repeating that. That resets the vagus nerve very quickly. And so your child borrows your nervous system before they build their own. So your anxiety transfers, but so does your calm. So pause, lower your voice, slow your pace. You can't solve a problem your child doesn't feel safe inside of. So, something to think about when you're having maybe the homework standoff. For example, they're saying, I'm not doing it. And as a parent, your frustration is rising and you're seeing that their frustration is rising. The typical reaction is, you don't have a choice. Sit down and do your homework, right? But if I were to put a co regulated response in there, my parents would notice that they're a little bit activated. So I would ask them to take a pause, take a breath, soften your tone, and then say, okay, something about this feels like a lot right now. Let's take a minute. We'll figure it out together. So by having that response, Your teen will feel understood instead of controlled. The brain shifts from defensiveness to receptiveness. And now problem solving, thinking becomes possible. Again, you can't solve a problem your child doesn't feel safe inside of, right? Have we ever been, as parents, in the moment where we've said the line, I've asked you 5 times to ... Every parent has been there. One way is you, as the parent, interrupting yourself. You're getting to that point and you're saying, hold on, I need a second. You step away, you breathe, you go outside, you come back with a lowered tone and saying, okay, let's reset this. So in real time, your teen observed you interrupt escalation, you modeled emotional regulation, and you prevented damage to your relationship with your teen. Your regulation is the intervention. What I love about teaching parents or anyone that works with teens is thinking through how to integrate neuroscience, executive functioning, and behavioral psychology all into something you can actually use at home. Everything we talked about tonight fits into this model. And so if you walk away with one thing tonight, the first thing, regulate. If your child is overwhelmed or you're overwhelmed, nothing else works. Calm the nervous system. Number 2, clarity. If the task is unclear, they won't start it. So inviting the collaboration on understanding if they understand the clear plan or developing one together. And then 3, consistency. Systems, not reminders, create follow through. If you skip the bottom layer, everything collapses. Everything is based upon a calm nervous system because we're trying to get them out of their amygdala, the emotional brain, and into their prefrontal cortex, their thinking brain. So let's walk through a couple more examples. So it's 9 p.m. and we have a major assignment due tomorrow. They've barely started. You walk in and you say, "Did you finish?" Your teen snaps at you. "I know, stop asking me." Now you're frustrated. They're overwhelmed and nothing gets done. This is where most families get stuck. Now, if we were to think through this Ikigai regulation model, what we're going to say to ourselves is regulation first, calm nervous system. All right. So instead of reacting, the parent pauses. You lower your voice and you slow their pace. Okay, this feels stressful right now. We're not going to panic. Let's just take one step at a time. So what's happening in that regulation phase? We're trying to deactivate the stress. We're trying to increase the activity of the prefrontal cortex. Because when overwhelmed, the brain literally can't organize or start any task effectively. So again, you cannot problem solve until the nervous system feels safe. Let's continue with this example and go to clarity. Reducing the feeling of being overwhelmed. The parent can ask, let's look at what actually needs to get done. Sit together, side by side. What's the smallest thing we can start with? The teen might say, I guess I could open a Google Doc. You as a parent, perfect. That's it. Let's go and open a Google Doc. So here we're turning clarity into the action because they were overwhelmed before. And we're trying to reduce that cognitive load and increase that task initiation, right? And then step 3, we're building the system by practicing the system. So what you should do as a parent the next day, last night felt stressful for both of us. What would help this feel easier next time? The team might offer a solution. Maybe I start earlier. Maybe I break it up into small tasks. And you, as a parent, say, okay, let's set up a simple plan. 20 minutes after dinner, let's start with one task. Then we take a break. Then we'll do the next task. Repeated small action builds that behavioral momentum, it increases that motivation. So when you have a system, it reduces the reliance on your own sheer willpower, which is absolutely unreliable under stress. Consistency removes the need for constant reminders. So we're going to calm the system. We're going to clarify the tasks. We're going to build a simple system. Regulation makes thinking possible. Clarity makes starting possible. Consistency makes success repeatable. So you don't need to push your child harder. You need to make it easier for their brain to succeed. I'll ask the audience again something about what layer is breaking most in your house. If we were to use this model, is it the regulation stage? Is it the clarity stage? Is it the consistency stage? You can share in the chat. I know for me, I'm really good at calming the system and getting to the next task. My consistency as a parent is where I falter. Great. Thank you guys for sharing. If I could just share one more example, just so that we really land this model, right? Sometimes our teens like to say the words, I don't care. So your teen gets a low grade on a test, you bring it up, and they say, I don't care. But you know they do care. So now you're frustrated and they're shutting down. This is probably one of the most confusing moments for parents. So if we try to apply the model, regulation first, let's de-escalate. Instead of saying, of course you care, the parent pauses and says calmly, okay, I can understand that this feels frustrating. We don't have to solve it right this second. I don't care is often a defensive response to protect against failure or shame. The brain is avoiding discomfort. It's not rejecting responsibility. Emotional threat, reduced access to reasoning, your prefrontal cortex, right? So the I don't care is often, I care too much and I don't know what to do. Let's move to clarity. The parent can say, can I ask what feels most frustrating about this? The teen might say, I studied really hard and I still did bad. And then you as a parent might say, okay, thank you for sharing that. So it's not that you don't care, it's that it's not working the way you expected. What part feels the hardest right now? Again, you're giving them agency and ownership. When teens can name the problem, the cognitive load decreases. Clarity shifts the brain from avoidance to problem solving. Once we name the real problem, we can actually solve it, right? And then step 3, consistency, building a small but repeatable plan. The question from you as a parent might be, okay, so next time, what would help you feel more prepared? The teen might say, maybe I go to the teacher's office hours. Maybe I study differently. And you as a parent, you come in and say, all right, let's try this. 15 minutes of review after class. And then let's write down one question when something doesn't make sense. And let's build in a check in with your teacher, maybe once or twice every week or every 2 weeks. So, small, repeatable actions build the confidence and the competence. The systems reduce the emotional reactivity over time. They might still be frustrated with a bad grade, but they'll have a plan on how to deal with it. Confidence comes from the small wins, not pressure. So, my before parents, they hear, I don't care, they react, there's a little conflict with their teen shuts down. Using this model, the parent regulates, They get clarity from the teen, they co create a plan, and they re engage. The reason why this model works is it's not just about tasks, it's about your identity, your teen's identity, and their self worth. Parents sometimes misinterpret the behavior, and that's okay. We're human. So your child isn't telling you the truth when they say, I don't care. They're telling you how overwhelmed they feel, right? And so you're not the enforcer. You're not the homework police. You are the regulator and the strategist. Your relationship matters more than any assignment. And when you get the systems right, you get both. So emotional regulation, planning strategies, better scripts, right? And so your challenge this week, I want you to pick one strategy, just one, and try it for 7 days. Not perfectly, just intentionally. You might choose to practice the pause. You might say, I need to insert more box breathing, right? Executive functioning skills are built through practice, not pressure. And the fact that you're learning about this tonight with me puts you in a very powerful position to support growth of your human, right? So I want you to start small. I want you to stay consistent and remember that supporting the brain changes everything. I just want to say thank you all for being here. I would love to hear from you as you try these strategies in the next week. Here's my contact information. Go ahead and let me know what's working, what didn't work so well, what do you want to do differently?
Great, thanks. And if you stop sharing, we can
Yeah,
wrap up. Great, thank you. So if people want, we can stick around for a little bit. If you have any questions, put them in there. Tamy-Feé and I will be sending everyone. You'll get an automated email soon from this app with the link. But tonight or tomorrow, I'll send an email with the slideshow, with more information, with Tamy-Feé's contact information. Some information that I have about college essays, my programs. And I'm seeing how what you're talking about has to do with my relationship with Amy. It has to do with my doctor is amazing, amazing, amazing in the way she like got me off of my daily can of Coke and Snickers bar. Um, in my doctor with little strategies and like
yeah,
acknowledging and everything. And my doctor, I hope, is still on this call and hasn't vanished. But I'm thinking how many places in life
yeah,
what you shared is is what you share. There I am. How many places in life what you shared and what you talked about is absolutely relevant from Otis the puppy to students to my students writing college essays to kids figuring out their college list to parents. Oh my God, panicking,
yeah, yeah,
freaking out. And I'm like, and part of me wants to say like, breathe, but breathe. I can be like, breathe. It's gonna be like, okay, got it. You sound a little anxious.
yeah,
Like, let me get them breathing, but I got to be breathing first.
yeah, 100%.
Right. Um, Thank you so much. I absolutely love your webinars and playing and exploring with you. Another thing I'll be sending out on that email is a whole bunch of, and again, I see there's some comments in there I'll address, but I will be sending that out. I have other webinars with Tamy-Feé, some that I lead, some that others have led. And Tamy-Feé and I have started a conversation. I've been talking with others about like really having more webinars and podcasts, how to help people live really great lives, kind
Yeah,
of relax and
yeah,
breathe. And
yeah,
life can be an enjoyable experience, a joyous experience, and we don't have to be as stressed. And we work with students and work with people in very different ways. But there's that underlying philosophy, underlying approach of what life can be
absolutely.
and different ways of getting there.
Yeah, yeah. We want all of our humans to be thriving. We don't want to be in survival mode.
It's too exhausting. Thank you.
Exactly.
And thank you, Molly. Oh, I am not surprised. That's right. You do all sorts of awesome things, Molly. Again, another very different type of work, but about people having just kind of the lives that work for them. Uh, so that's all I got.
Thank you. This was a
You're
great
welcome.
conversation. I appreciate you all.
Okay, have a good one. I'll give you a call in a couple minutes and we'll wrap up.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, bye.